Welcome to AI for You. Today's use case is about making the most of your existing content. Much of the work I do is focused on optimizing content performance. I collect a lot of data and run a lot of content audits. And I used to spend hours going through all of the data to find the insights. Now I use AI to help with that process. In the show notes for this episode, you'll find a deep research prompt that I use to start any content audit process that I do. This saves me hours of time on each audit and is just one of the prompts that I use in conjunction with several custom GPTs to make these audits more effective and more efficient. In this episode, we're talking with Isaac Williams, the Director of Multimedia and Digital Strategy at Daemen University, as we explore how institutions can leverage AI to maximize their enrollment marketing efforts despite limited resources. Let's jump right in. So tell me a little bit about how you're integrating AI into the work you do at Daemen.
At Daemen, being a small private, we have a very small team, I guess you would say. We really need to understand with the enrollment cliff where our students are coming from, not only just from a major standpoint, but also from a regional standpoint. We need to know where we're spending our dollars too. So how I personally break down our advertising is I usually do it by regions. Now, being in the Buffalo region, most of our advertising budget is going to be in that area. But again, going back to the enrollment cliff, we don't have as many students in the Buffalo area, so we need to get more students from Rochester and Syracuse and New York City and Albany. So some advertising dollars have to go there, but because it is being a smaller private, which is a smaller budget, we really need to make sure that the dollars that we're spending are effective. And the only way to do that is by breaking down where applications are coming from. That is why I use data so much, but you could spend hours in data. So AI is my tool to help funnel all that down and make it go a lot quicker. It's basically allows me to, when we don't have as many hands to do that, have multiple virtual hands helping us synthesize that data.
I think that's one of the real strengths of generative AI is its ability to look at large amounts of data, and based on the input and the parameters that we give it, it can figure out, where the insights are in that data, because it just takes so much time manually to be able to manage that data and go through and pull these same insights out of it for our functional uses that we're going to do. Lots of concerns around data privacy. You got to be careful what tools you're using, what data you're uploading into those tools. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of manage those issues using your data and doing analysis with these tools?
I try to make sure to tell people, be very careful what you give AI. We have queries within our CRM, so I'm able to create queries based off what I'm actually trying to pull out of it. Sometimes, actually more often than not, those queries will also pull back first name and last name. I always scrub that out before I put anything into ChatGPT just because it's not necessary. What I'll end up doing is I'll create another column usually and then have some type of ID code for it. So each name will have and not given to the AI, but I know has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then when I put it in there, and then I'm like, oh, I can retrace it back to row 6 or row 8. This is what this field is associated with. It's just important not to no addresses, no phone numbers, just what I'm looking to do. But you have to cut that out before you give it to Chat GPT or Gronk or Gemini, or whatever you're using. That does take time, but it's a lot less time, basically. So I like to consider it my first job was in food service, and we did a lot of prep. With AI, there still is a lot of prep. So that is what I normally do.
Yep. And that de-identification process is is critical to understand. And I think that's one of the keys for like, we need to keep educating the people who are going to be using these tools. We need to keep raising awareness of the capabilities of these tools. And we have so much data in higher ed. It's just, overwhelming to try to figure out what we need to be looking at and what we need to be measuring. And these tools are great. If you give it the problem you're trying to solve, it can help you figure out what information to look at. And then you just have to make sure that when you're providing that data, that you're not including anything that you shouldn't. So tell me a little bit about your AI journey. Did you jump right on board with this? Were you an early adopter? Did you kind of come to a realization at some point that this could really help you out in the work you do?
I was just at a summit here on campus, and one of the students presented. The presentation was on fanboying and fangirling. And I was like, what does that mean? I actually knew what it meant, but sort of. But I was like, what are you talking about? But she emphasized that her love for science was based off of like her fanboying for like Marvel and these type of characters. So for me, I've always been intrigued with dystopian societies and worlds and all these things, and love all the different movies that have featured AI, from AI to iRobot to Minority Report. I'm fascinated with the idea of it anyways, and I do believe AI in general is going to be so impactful in expanding what the human race basically can do going forward, not even on this planet, but outside of this planet. ChatGPT was the first one, and it's like, what is this? And I want to use this. And I tried it out like a couple of years ago and just kind of played around with it, but I wasn't really using it for anything I was doing here yet. It was more how I used it is that it helped elaborate on answers that I might have on certain topics and certain things like that. But then I went to a couple conferences in the higher ed space and outside of the higher ed space. And every time AI is on the conference list or somewhere, I like to go and see a session because I want to know what are you doing with it? And I just started pulling things from what other people have been doing. Oh, you can do this. Oh, you can do that. And then I'm like, okay, I can incorporate this. I can incorporate that. I always say that anytime I go to a conference, that first thing I want to do is, you can't do everything because there's too much you learn. But if there's 3 or 5 things, usually you can get to 3 that you can take back and you can modify what you're doing to make you be better at your job performance, then you should do that. So it was pretty seamless for me to just like, okay, I'm in. And then eventually over the last year and a half, 2 years, data, how can I make this faster? Because I got to a point where I would spend a whole day. And because I'm also so, I guess you can say OCD about numbers, if they're off by 1 or 2, I cannot move on with anything else the rest of the day until I fix that issue. That is not a problem using AI because they're going to find what you're doing and screwing up.
Yep, for sure. We're both, enthusiasts, AI enthusiasts, I'd say. What do you think are the biggest challenges for higher ed when it comes to integrating AI? Because we see a lot of resistance. We see a lot of just people who aren't aware of what the capabilities are, what the opportunities are. Why do you think that is in higher ed?
I think it's built into the culture. The faculty are a big voice usually on college campuses, bigger than the staff. And so it's woven into their ideology already that, hey, these people are cheating. It's not you doing it. You're just having somebody else do the work for you. So therefore, are you really learning the topics that you need to learn? I can also probably understand from a technical standpoint, say if you're an engineer or an architect or a doctor, how scary that might be from an instructor standpoint. Hey, you're utilizing AI. What happens if you're in an emergency room and this happens? But then funny thing about it is that nowadays that there's a lot of AI in emergency rooms in hospitals. So it kind of goes hand in hand. I always say people are tied to nostalgia. They're tied to tradition and they do not want to change. But that's from a faculty standpoint. So they're giving you a lot of negative feedback. And then when you go to the staff, there's 2 sides of it. There's people that don't know how to use it and they're not willing to learn. Especially higher ed has a lot of people that have been here for a very long time, 25, 30 years. And if you're doing your work in a certain way, the last thing you want to do is change it and add these different other components. On top of that, there's also this fear of like, okay, if we do too much of this AI stuff and my boss finds out that, wait, you're doing this, we don't need you. you lose your job. So that is also something that is a scary part from a staff standpoint. The other part of college campus, the students, I don't think that there's any fear from the students in using it because it saves them time. So they're like, hey, I'm in. What I would always also say to the student though, however, is that you can do it an easy backdoor way, but just saying, hey, I do this. Or you could leverage AI, or what I would say, going back to the prepping, the AI or your individual instance know who you are. You've written maybe over your lifetime 100, 200 things. Share that with your AI instance. Share how you think internally. Then, even if it spits out an answer, be critical, because AI just sometimes it spits out things that, what are you talking about? I have a lot of back and forth with it because I'm like, I didn't tell you to do that. Like, I wanted you to do this, this, and this. And why would you do it that way? So I think those are three different factions of a college campus and how AI is kind of a push and pull situation. But definitely faculty, because they have such a big voice, that's where that negative feedback already is built in. And then the staff, again, afraid that they might lose their jobs from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like, I love the prep metaphor because it's so critical. And when you're prepping, whether it's, in a restaurant, having worked food service myself for years, or in your job, the key to getting the prep right, or to getting your prompt right, or to communicating to the tool in a way that really turns it into a collaboration is all about your expertise. Because as the initiators, we have to understand the strategies, the goals, the audiences, the institution. We have to bring our expertise into the equation and then combine that with the skills that the AI brings. So if you just go in and just give it like a shallow, short prompt, you're going to get bad output. So whether people think that it's cheating, maybe if you're not putting the thought and the prep work into preparing the model to create the best output, or whether you're afraid that it's going to lose your job, maybe you don't have a job or you don't do your job in a way that you need to bring expertise and experience and understanding to that role. And I think those are, if you work in those two areas, I think you need to be careful about there is a potential for AI to replace you. But if you're a strategic thinker, if you're a creative thinker, if you work well with people, if you understand strategies and goals, then I think that you're a value add, and that collaborating with AI is just going to make you more effective and more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You go to a lot of events, speaking at different conferences and things like that. What advice do you have for people at other institutions who are just starting with AI and don't know like where to begin?
It always goes back to, if you don't know where to begin and you're feeling overwhelmed by something, that you might need to peel it back a bit. I wouldn't even go in and say, oh, we're going to start using this. It's more of like trying to find the gaps in your workflow, or the gaps in what is causing you strife as a team, as an individual, and write that down on a piece of paper. Like, get out, go old fashioned, pen, piece of paper. What is causing me issues? Maybe do it all individually and then come together as a team, and then go out and get a whiteboard and put it all out there and have a conversation, a collaboration, saying, what would be great if, and usually always with institutions or in business or whatever, it's always like, we need to hire somebody else, or we need an hire 2 or 3 more people. And then you look and you're like, oh, wait, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we have this tool here that can fill in this gap, this gap, this gap. Once you have an understanding, a plan in place, of written down, this is what we're going to use AI for, then you can start. Then I would start with one thing. Don't do 3, 4, 5 things. Do one thing. See how it feels, and have feedback. Are we liking this? Is this doing what we needed to do? Is everybody on board? Okay, let's add another thing. Let's add another thing. Again, people think AI is replacing you. It's not that AI is replacing you. It's making you better. Now you're able to do way more things. Like, from my desk is like, you're like, how did you do all that data? And you're able to do all this other, because I'm using AI to help enhance my ability to put out as much output as possible to help us achieve our goals. So we're not all usually what we call stressed out from all the stuff that we have to do, particularly in higher ed, because being on a college, it's a lot, whether you're in enrollment or you're in IT or you're in marketing. And again, like I said before, we're a small team here at Daemen. So anything I can do to help us with time, give us more time to do other things, I'm willing to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a that's a critical like process that you outline, like going through and identifying problem areas and barriers and roadblocks or things that are taking a lot of your time, and just putting those out there and saying, these are all opportunities. For every time you run into something that is, repetitive or data focused or, needs more like brainstorming, more ideas, those are all opportunities for AI. And if you just pick one of those that is like the biggest time suck, then you can figure out how to automate part of that. And then it's very easy to measure, here's how long it took us to do this before AI.
Yes.
Here's how long it took us to do this after AI. And those are great case studies you can take to leadership and say, we saved 30% of our time by integrating these tools into this solution. And, with the state of higher ed right now, everyone's looking for efficiencies and right.
Yeah. If you're not doing it, your competitor's going to do it.
Absolutely. So what are some of the more interesting use cases that you've seen of AI, either in higher ed or outside of higher ed, seen or heard of?
So I was at a conference and this woman presented, Arianda, Ariadna Jacob, and she's known as Little Miss Jacob on Instagram and X. And she works with Charlie D'Amelio, the TikTok woman.
Oh, okay.
I don't do a lot of TikTok. So yeah, basically what she did was she helps her with finding trending videos. And then this is the next trend. And we're going to do a video based off of this. And that's how they end up getting like 1 million people watching or beating the TikTok algorithm, basically. She basically went into TikTok. So again, went into TikTok, found a thing, looked over things. What is trending? What is coming up? What's happening? Okay, it's this hashtag. They did this video. This is what's in there. Wrote all this down. Then she has built her own ChatGPT prompt to analyze this data and basically spit out something similar to that. Or basically, I do a lot of SEO. So in like an SEO terms, it's like building on that, like to rank higher or to achieve that goal. And it works. You put in this prompt, it spits out, okay, you can do this video. It gives you multiple different video options you can do. Use these hashtags. Then she takes that video and then uploads it back to AI and say, hey, what do you think? And then the AI might say, I don't know, or this is good, or have you thought about doing this? Once they have a finalized video that they think that could work, then they upload it to TikTok. And she's been doing this with businesses. So she's taking businesses that had no TikTok followings at all. And those TikTok businesses, she actually showed physical evidence, had 30,000 views for like a car wash company. I'm like, what? How's that? But it does work. And I thought that was pretty amazing what she was doing with that.
Yeah, those predictive modeling capabilities and the trends and research opportunities that AI brings along just to automate all of those processes, spectacular. As AI continues to evolve, higher ed needs more and more ways to start leveraging these technologies. And we know these are going to be integrated into all the tools we use already. What advice do you have for higher ed, like admissions, alumni, professionals, on how they can start upskilling, reskilling in ways to kind of prepare for what's on the horizon with this technology?
Me personally is that I've tried to get my vice president more on board with certain things, or at least share with her topics. So every time I go to a conference and I see something, I'm like, hey, check this out. I'm always like sharing, oh yeah, and this, and then now she's emailing like, oh yeah, this was good. You should listen to this, listen to that. So that's a voice that can be on cabinet. So if I can engage and then she can engage more people on cabinet, our IT director, then it becomes a point where it's like, hey, you got like, there might be 8 people in the cabinet and like 3 or 4 of them might be in the AI or understand it now. So once you have enough allies, basically, then that can build into changing the idea of what's going on campus and give people a sense of like, hey, we need to go here. This is where we're headed. Rome's not built in a day, but you can kind of, build towards that.
Yeah. And I'm always telling people that, AI integration is not a technology project. It is a change management project. And I think managing up and showing leadership, convincing leadership that this is something that we need to start having a sense of urgency about, and it's not going away, and it definitely has opportunities. I think that's a huge unlock for a lot of institutions. Where do you think generative AI is going to go in the next year or two?
I think it depends on how fast it expands. I know it's getting smarter and it's getting better as we move along. I don't want to get too wild with it, like Minority Report wild with it, but I do believe that how we work currently is kind of the age of the typewriter. I don't think we're going to be using computers like this. I think it's going to be very different. AI is going to continue to get smarter. It's going to get faster. It's going to be able to analyze data even more effectively. Even to this day, sometimes when you give it too much data or too much chunks of data, it has trouble analyzing it the way you want it analyzed, even if you prep it or prompt it. So sometimes you have to go back and say, no, that's not what I wanted. Try again. A lot of that won't be the case the more this goes on. So it's just going to get better. It gets better. It's smarter every single day. So again, moving towards that eventual situation where it's just going to be built into our computer systems where you're not going to have to do the prep, basically.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's 2 years away, but it's moving faster in that situation. So that's even less time. So that gives me even more time to do other things. But I also do know the double-edged sword of that is that people will say, well, if you keep doing all these things and this keeps doing all these things, well, couldn't we have just hired another person? Doesn't it take a job from somebody else? So it's a challenge,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. One of the questions I always end with is asking people in your life, in your job, what AI use cases are most beneficial for you?
I am the worst procrastinator with writing. I'm going to tell you, I do not like to write. Even when I was in school, I hated writing papers. I would wait until like the last absolute moment before I could even start writing papers. I have a lot of different ideas going on in my head. Like jotting that down on paper seems to always be a waste of time for me. And then structuring it in a way that actually makes sense to talk about. And when I use AI, I'm jotting down notes. Like I have Post-it notes everywhere. This is how I work. I'm writing down notes. What I love about it is that I've given it articles or things that I've written, papers I've written, and I can say, hey, I'm thinking these 10 things right now on top of my head. Can you structure this down into 5 different taglines that we can use in an ad? It takes me a while to get there, but then I'm not always using exactly what it's saying, but it helps me move quicker in my brain. And I'm like, okay, now I can structure this down and I can actually do this. So the writing part is huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaac, thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights with our audience. If they want to get in touch with you and learn more, where's the best place for them to do that?
Oh, yeah, I am on LinkedIn, but I'm also on a lot of the other platforms, Instagram, X, Isaac E Online. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. Isaac's perspective offers valuable insights for enrollment professionals at schools of all sizes. What stood out to me is his practical approach to AI implementation, identifying specific pain points, starting with one solution, and then measuring results before expanding further. His food service prep metaphor perfectly captures truth about AI, that the quality of your output depends entirely on your preparation. By taking time to gather the right data, properly anonymize that data, and then craft thoughtful prompts, Isaac shows how institutions with limited resources can leverage AI responsibly and effectively. His strategy of building allies among leadership by sharing small wins and educational resources provides a blueprint for overcoming institutional resistance. As the enrollment cliff continues to pose challenges for higher education, Isaac's approach to using AI for data analysis provides a model for more efficient, targeted marketing that makes every recruitment dollar count. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating.